right. Okay, I'm going to talk about building your dream team, really tools for hiring employees. This is really more specific to W-2 employees. Going to talk about just some of what I have experienced and seen over the last year and a half or so of helping organizations with their hiring process and what I've seen works well and what doesn't work well. So I hope this is really valuable to you. I would love for you to drop in the chat, just checking to see who do we have here. Okay. Marcelo, hello, welcome. Nanette's still here. Awesome. Kelsey, Tara, Dave, awesome. Okay. So a couple of things that we're going to talk about. I'm going to talk about job descriptions. I'm going to talk about different tools for hiring. I've touched on these a little bit all throughout the summit so far. I was just checking in the chat. Andrea, I'm on the Book of Faces. Oh, Facebook is Andrea Hollingshead, if anyone wants to connect. Perfect, yes. Thank you for dropping that in there. I was like, the Book of Faces, what? Yeah, so we're just going to talk about just a couple key things that you can really do to streamline and improve your hiring process to make it a better fit for everybody. What I really find, can you guys see my screen? Let's see. There we go. I'm going to try and pull you guys up so I can see your faces. There you are. Perfect. Okay. I just want to make sure this isn't, can you guys see this okay? I want to make sure that it's not, my shadow box isn't blocking the screen. Chat box. Tara, are you guys able to see this okay? Or is anything being blocked? It's blocking some, but it'll be fine. Okay. I might just have to, I don't know why this is happening today. It was perfectly fine yesterday. I can see you guys, I can see my presentation. I'm not sure what's going on today, so it's all right. So a couple things, we're going to talk about really attracting top talent, streamlining your hiring process, and retaining top performers. So a lot of what I see with the hiring space is one, there's a lot of time and energy that is spent on the screening process, reviewing resumes, doing initial screenings, all of that. And I've seen different hiring processes, some that work really well, some that don't work really well. I would say the traditional is you look at a resume, you go mostly based off of their resume, you interview off of that resume, and you do one interview, sometimes maybe two. What I have found to be the most successful with the different companies I've worked with is having a multi-layer hiring process and being really clear about who you want to hire, not just the skill set, but what personality do they need? What type of leader are you? What type of, what do they need to be motivated by? What zone of genius do you want them to have? Because somebody can have the skill set, but just because they have the skill set doesn't mean they're going to be fulfilled in their role. And if you have somebody in a role and they're not fulfilled, they're going to do a good job for a little while, and eventually they're going to start to fizzle out and they're going to get frustrated. It can develop conflict or disengagement, frustration among the team member and also among the business owner. There we go. I was like, why isn't this letting me move? So first of all, let's talk about job descriptions. When I first started getting into this hiring process, I've seen job descriptions, right? But as I was helping craft a job description that really spoke to the person, calling in the person that they really wanted, because what was happening is they were hiring people and then it was not a good fit, and then there was a lot of frustration. And so really crafting a job description that really speaks to not just the skill set, but to the working genius. So if you guys missed the 6 working geniuses that I talked about, I use this. So I do an assessment with any of the clients that we are helping with hiring, and I do an assessment, and I want to get really clear on what is the skill set do they need? Do they need to be detail oriented? Do they need to be a visionary? Do they need to be a person that are they going to be a manager that needs to rally people to do certain things? What are the different types of what's the type of genius that they need in their role? Because if we can put that in the job description and call that role out, right? Somebody's going to read that job description and go, yeah, that's me. Like, I'm the visionary, like, sign me up for that, right? Versus the traditional, like, typical, like, here's the different skill sets and here's the qualifications. But like, I like to put on like, you are going to thrive in this role if you love to do these things, right? And here's the thing. Some people are applying for jobs just to apply for jobs, and they're not really paying attention to the job description. However, I will tell you, really good candidates, when I ask them, why are you interested in this position? Why do you want to work for this company? It's because the job description was unique and it set them apart, and they were intrigued by the company culture and by what was on that job description. It was compelling to them, and that attracts high quality talent. So on the job description, we do not get rid of the generic job descriptions and postings. You can use ChatGPT, right? There's all sorts of different ways you can do it, but make sure that it's highlighting the values of your team culture, because and this is why you need to be clear on what is your company vision, what are the values of your company, because if you're not clear on that, you're not able to communicate that to the person that you are hiring. You want to make sure that you are attracting people who are like-minded, not people that are just looking for a job. Maybe if you just want to fill a seat and you don't really care, right? But you're not here for that. You're here because you want to build a high-performing team that loves what they do. Highlight how your company is going to help them grow, especially in today's day and age, especially with millennials. They are looking for fulfillment. They are looking for careers. They don't want just any job. They want to be fulfilled. No longer are we in the generation of our parents who were blue collar workers and they got in a job, and because it had a pension, they stuck it out, even if they were miserable in it, right? That generation is gone. We cannot speak to that generation anymore. We have to speak to the new generations that are coming out and really show them, how are you going to help them grow? Like, what are the opportunities within your company that you're going to offer, and help present the vision to them for why they want to be with your company and why they want to stick with your company long term, and not just looking for job seekers. And then clearly outline the qualities and the motivations you seek in potential team members. So this is where I was talking about working genius is really important, because it's going to show you, it's going to give you a snapshot of what that person is naturally going to be gifted at. So for example, if we work with a lot of insurance agency owners that are hiring for different positions, whether it's a producer or it's an account manager or a customer service role. Each of those roles are very, very different in the requirements, right? So just because somebody has a background in sales, they might be really good at sales, it doesn't mean they're going to be fulfilled in what they do. And so when we use assessment tools like DISC profile or working geniuses, we can get a snapshot of who they really are, right? And sometimes with assessments, we have to be a little bit careful because they can change. And that's why it's important to have, I like to have a couple different assessments that are used, and use a couple different tools and the questions that I ask in the screening process to make sure that they are really a good quality candidate before they go into the interview with the business owner. So a couple assessments that we like to use in the hiring process, I mentioned Working Genius, Enneagram is a great one, and DISC profile. The team assessment in Enneagram, I like to use more for the team that's already there. Working Genius and DISC profile are really good as screeners. So we have one client that we use Working Genius to understand what type of genius do they need to fill this role? And then they do the DISC profile as like their third, like last layer, right? Does this person actually have the DISC profile that is required in this role? And sometimes they make it through 4 interviews, and if that DISC profile isn't what they're looking for, then they decide it's not a good fit before before making the offer. So having a multi-layer hiring process, and I know this can sound overwhelming or like, oh my gosh, I don't have time for this, right? You don't not have time for it, because it is going to cost you so much more money in the long run to hire somebody that is not a good fit. And so if we can do whatever we can to make sure the person is a good fit before they get in the role, it's going to save a lot of money and a lot of headaches and frustration. So let's talk about hiring for culture and motivational fit. Really define your culture. Clearly articulate your company's values, mission, and your unique workplace atmosphere. That is what is going to set your job description apart from, the bigger companies that are out there. Assess motivation. So I just talked about this. Use targeted questions to uncover what truly drives potential hires. So again, we use the Working Genius. We don't have them take the Working Genius. We just get really clear on what is the Working Genius they need in the role, and develop questions to pull that out of them and make sure that they that their answers are in alignment with that before they're able to move in to the next interview step. So the way that I recommend this, the way that we do this, the way we help our clients is we do all of the, at Success Without Sacrifice, we do all of the initial screening. We look at the resumes, we look at the initial assessment, we help create the job description, and then we ask the questions. We come up with the questions, we ask the questions and screen them and make sure that they're potentially a good fit before moving into an interview with the owner. And so if they pass that first step, then they move into doing an interview with the owner themselves, usually a 30-minute interview. And then after that, it's recommended to do a team interview. And so it's a multi-layer process to make sure that you're really getting the right fit right from the get-go. And then understand your leadership style as a business owner, because this plays into team dynamics. If you understand how you are a leader, this is where Enneagram becomes really helpful in understanding what motivates you, what fears do you have, what maybe triggers are you going to have, how do you communicate, what's your communication style, versus your employee that you're bringing on may not do well if you are a very direct person. And so if you can both understand each other and how you communicate, that is going to make everything much smoother. And so we like to use Enneagram in the hiring process and understanding what is their Enneagram type. So once they're onboarded, then we can, if there's communication issues, then we can understand and we can use Enneagram for that. Cultural integration, plan for a smooth onboarding process that reinforces your company culture from day one. We've been talking a lot about SOPs, a lot of making sure that it's clearly defined what the role is, what's expected of that person, because a lot of times there's miscommunication and the business owner thinks that they're communicating something and the employee isn't getting that. And so that could create a lot of frustration. So how can you create an onboarding process that's really clear before you even start the hiring process, so that way they're not constantly having to ask you questions, right? We want to minimize the questions they're having to ask you so you can remove yourself out of the business. And then I talked about this a little bit already, but really streamlining the hiring process. So delegate, here's what we recommend, not just because we do this, we actually only take on a very limited amount of clients, but delegate resume reviews and an initial screening process to a trusted hiring expert. There's HR companies out there, there's all sorts of different ways you can go about this, but especially if you have a bigger team, and even if you don't have a bigger team, like there is no reason you need to be doing the initial screening, especially if you have a conversation with the person that's going to be screening for you. So we do this, we do a consultation. Who are you looking for? What types of skill sets do they need? We get a really clear picture on who they're looking for, right? So that they are only having to interview really top quality candidates. So I would say like an initial for a hire, it's usually about roughly a 3-month process is pretty typical of going through and screening and interviewing. I would say hundreds of candidates, and only probably 20 to 30% actually make it to the next interview process. So that saves the owner tons of time and energy that they can be working on their business and doing other things that are going to move the needle forward and income producing activities. You don't need to be doing the initial screening process. So if you are hiring and you're like, oh my goodness, I don't want to hire. I hear this all the time from our clients of like, oh, I know I need to hire, but I don't have the energy. It's very time consuming. You don't need to do the initial screening process. Outsource that to somebody else. And then really having a list of top candidates who match your specific criteria. It's really hard to create a short list based on resume alone. You never know based on just a resume who a person really is. And so yes, you can screen by resume, but it's really not the best way to screen for a quality candidate. I've seen resumes that I thought, no way, this person's going to be a good quality candidate, and they were amazing, and they ended up hiring, and now they're an employee. And so you just never know, like truly based off a resume, especially in today's age with millennials, who I think the statistic is they'll have like 20 jobs in their lifetime or something crazy like that. So there's more than just looking at resumes. And then final interview. So really, as the owner, you want to focus your energy on meeting only the most promising potential team members. We've been hiring for one of our clients, and it's been probably over 100 hours that we have saved them in time and energy. Yes, they're paying us, but the return on investment is worth it. Lisa, actually, we talked about this. Lisa LeBlanc came on day one. So if you didn't catch that and you want to hear her talk about that, go catch that. She realized that the hiring process was energy draining for her, and actually for her team too, because she had actually outsourced it to one of their team members. And I remember when I first started hiring for them, I saw her at one of their team members at an event, and she came up and she like gave me a big hug, and she was like, "Thank you so much for taking on the screening process." She's like, "Oh, I hate it so much." And so, can you delegate it within your team? Yes. Is it the best use of their time and energy? Maybe not. And so only you can decide that for you and where your company is at. And then really like creating a talent map for sustainable growth. So how can we create a long-term strategy for nurturing and retaining top talent within your organization, within the people you hire? It first starts with the onboarding experience and creating a really good onboarding experience, because in the first 90 days, is crucial to understand, is an employee going to work within your team culture, and do they have the skill set? Do they have the personality? And if you don't have a good onboarding process, that's going to make for a much more frustrating process for everybody. And then continually invest in your employees' personal growth, because your company can only grow as much as you personally grow. Your employees are a vital part of the performance of your company, right? And they can only perform as good as their personal growth. And so we send people to conferences, for professional conferences, but we forget about their personal growth and investing in that personal growth. And we've talked about this all day today. Personal growth is key to top performance and for communication and collaboration within a team. So invest in your employees' personal growth. It's going to be worth it for everybody. I'm not saying you should do that in the first 90 days, right? Like make sure that they are going to be a good fit for your company before you're investing a bunch of money into them. But if you know that they're going to be a good fit and they're going to be staying on, invest in them, especially again, our millennial generations and those people, they want fulfillment, they want to learn and they want to grow, and we can take advantage of that instead of being frustrated by it. And then align individual aspirations with your company's growth and trajectory. So if we know what the skill set is that this person has, if we know that they're motivated by managing people, or they're motivated by data entry, how can we tap into those strengths and make sure that you are utilizing those employees to their best ability? And I'll give you an example of my husband was in corporate America, had an amazing job, good income, good benefits, and he used to joke that a monkey could do his job. The person that was in that job before him was high stress and was having heart issues because he couldn't handle the stress of the job. It was easy for my husband. It was so easy. There was no creative process. He's a very creative person, and being in that job sucked the life out of him to the point where he was depressed. And it took, like, you have to leave. This isn't worth it. You spend a majority of your time at work. It's not worth how you're feeling to stay in this job that you feel like is not fulfilling for you. So making sure that your employees are fulfilled in their role is so crucial and important to the performance of your company, of your team, and frankly, for your for your mental health and your sanity. Um, so